We are learning Yoma, Daf Mem Ches Amud Aleph. Here we go. Zok the Hil Gemara, last word. So we're in the middle of a few shaylas. The Gemara gave us a simon. Nem Zayin Amud Beis Bein Abeinim Pashat Machatz. So we are up to Machatz, I think. Here we go. Ba'i Rav Papa. Rav Papa had the following shayla. Davke lekaimet b'doifna demana mai. The halacha is that a kli, that the kaimetz, when you take the kaimetz from a mincha, it needs to be put into a kli shares to be mekadesh it. That's the way it becomes has kedushas haguf, by putting it into a kli shares. So the shaila is, when you put it here, so normally you just take the keteris and you put it into a kli. Here, the guy didn't put it, he put it into the kli, the kain, but instead of it just putting it in regularly, he stuck it to the sides of the wall and it didn't hit the bottom. So that's davke lekaimetz b'doifneha demana. He attached the kaimetz, he stuck the kaimetz to the walls of the kli. Mai, so what's the halacha? Teichli be'inan. Do you need to be inside of a kli? V'ha'ika, that you have. Perhaps you have to put it in like it's normally done. And that you don't have here, and therefore it would not do the job of being mekadesh that kaimetz. That's the shayla. Okay, there are different ways to be masbir the shayla. So let's take a look at the dirshu, and we got Safek hu ba'ifin shidbek is a kaimetz, all right. Okay, the first ha'ara that it makes in Dirshu is that when it comes to dam, when you're doing Kabbalah Sadam, once the dam goes into the airspace of the kli, that's already mekadesh it. Avir kli kikli is what the lashon of the Gemara is. So why would the kaimetz of the mincha be different than Kabbalah's dam? So he answers, Mishum de Kabbalah's adam ain't tzarich lahachnas as adam b'yadayim u'mizrag. When it comes to Kabbalah's adam, you're just a Kabbalah, you're receiving it. So there's no halacha to put it in to the kli. You just have to. The kli has to receive it. So once it hits the avir, the kli, it has been received by the kli. But when it comes to the kaimetz, halach is that the kohen has to put the kaimetz into the kli. Okay, that's why it's not enough to be in the avir; it needs to be put into the kli. You need a maisa putting into the kli. Okay, that's why you need to put into the kli mamish. Okay, now what's the suffix of our Gemara? If being put in on the walls is enough, or does it have to be put on the bottom of the kli? It has to be done in a normal fashion. So, okay. I'll read what it says here. The suffix is bekamitza atzma, but even in a situation shehid bekes hakemetz al defanei sakli the kamatz misham, you put the I'm sorry. That's okay. The Rambam learns a different shayla in the Gemara. Until now, we're learning that you did the kamitza and you put it into the kli. The problem is you didn't put it in normally. You just stuck it onto the sides of the wall. So that's the shayla. If that is considered a hanacha b'techa kli or not. The Rambam learns that you did the kamitza from flour that was stuck on the sides of the wall. If it's that considered doing a kamitza or not. Okay. Weiter. A kitzur to this beautiful shayla, the Gemara answers, Teiku. You'll have to wait for Eliyahu Navi to let you know. So until then, just put it into the kli. Don't stick it onto the sides of the wall. Givaldik. Boi Mar Bar Rav Ashi. Mar Bar Rav Ashi has a similar shayla, or similar but different. Avkia lamona. V'davke l'kaimitz ba'ar isei demana. So it seems like you flip the kli over, and now you're putting it on. Here's your kli. You turned it over this way, and you're putting the kaimitz on the now it's the top of the kli. Now it's got to be a scenario l'chayra where it has a base kibble. It's got it's got walls so it can stay in there. So av kelamani, you flipped over the and you stuck the kaimitz onto the bottom, which is now the top of the kli. What's halacha? Do you need to put it inside? And listen, you put it inside because it is in something. Again, there has got to be something that is coming up from the sides of the kli. Or do you need a hanacha that's done properly, which is in the kli that's in the right side up? Like that, you don't have teku. The Gemara blibes shver with this as well. Taisa says a different pshat in the Gemara is that you turn the kli inside out. I guess it was a soft kli. So now you're turning it inside out, and you're putting it in. You're putting it in regularly. It's just inside out. So that's the shayla of the Gemara. In any event, the Gemara says teku. Okay, Bayra Papa, Mole Chafnav Sha'am. Now we're back to the Keteris. So you're taking Mole Chafnav, which is a handful, both hands full of Keteris. Should that be Mechukais, which means is that like smooth out on top? Are you Gedushas, or is that in a mound, like overflowing in your hands? Amrlei Rebbe, that's a good shayla, Mechukais generally have more like when you have a kli, so you flatten at the top of the kli, like when you scoop, let's say, sugar or flour, really flour. You scoop flour, you get a cup of flour, so it could be gedushos, it could be, over. It's got a big mound on top, or mechukais means machak, you smooth out the top. So when you have your mali chavnav and you're filling up your hands, so you have the same shayla. So Gemara says Tanan Hasim. I'm sorry. Amr le Rabbi Abba le Rabbi Ashi Tashma. It's actually neither. Malay Chavnav she'amru lei mechukais v'lei gedushais. Ella tifufais. Tifufais, Rashi says, it's like floating. This is a little mound. It's not like a big mound. It's rounded. That's how you take it out with your hands. You scoop it out, and there's like a rounded. The keteris is rounded. Okay. Alrighty, now the Gemara is going to give us a little introduction to the next kasha, and it goes like this: the Tanan Hasim, we learned in a Mishnah in Zvachim. If you did shchita, nishpach hadam al haritzba, after the shchita of the carbon, so what are you supposed to do? You got to be makabel the dam in a kli. What happens if it was nishpach hadam al haritzba? The blood spilled right onto the floor. Va'asfu. And then you gather the blood and you put it into a kli. The halacha is it's puzzle. The shchita, the dam, has to go directly into the kli, from the animal into the kli. That's one Mishnah. Another Mishnah, which the Gemara is putting together, Rashi points out it's in a different parak. Mina kli al haritzba. But if you did the shchita and it went into your kli, the dam went into the kli, and then it spilled onto the floor, va'asvai, and then you gathered it up and put it back into the kli, kosher. That's okay, because the shchita just needs to come, the blood needs to come directly into the kli. If it falls out afterwards, that'll be okay. So for the Gemara, minoani mili, how do we know that the dam has to go straight from the neck into the kli? Tanabanan, so we have a brisa. The pasuk says, v'lokach midam hapar. You'll take from the blood of the par. V'lokach hakohen hamashiach midam hapar v'hevi yoisoi el oyhel moyed. Okay. So the Gemara makes a few drushes from this midam hapar. Number one, midam, from the blood, midam hanefesh. It's got to come from the blood that the nefesh goes out with. That's a pasuk. Rashi says, "Dam kiluach," blood that is flowing. Shahanefesh yotze, by that the soul goes out with it. That's midam hanefesh v'loi. What's that coming to the exclusion of? Midam ha'ar, blood that was in the skin. V'loi midam hatamtzis, and not blood that is dripping out at the end. Okay, that's one drasha. Second drasha, midam hapar, dam me hapar yikablanu. Blood from the cow, he should receive it. Now, says the Gemara, is that a fair drasha? The East, like the Chayri could have made another drasha from midam hapar. Usually, when it's me something, it's telling you it's only some of it, not all of it. The East, like midam hapar, midam va'afilu miktzas dam. You can do a Kabbalah of just some of the blood. Va'amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, "I'm a Kabbalah tzarich shekabel es kol damei shel par." You got to get all of the blood of the par. Shenemar ve'es kol dam par yishpech el yisod mizbeach. All of the blood of the par you're going to spill on the foundation of the mizbeach, the yisod mizbeach. So it can't mean midam par can't mean some of the blood. Ela shma mina. So rather, what am I going to darshan from midam hapar? My midam hapar. Dam me hapar yikablanu. You're going to receive the blood from the par. Now, that's not what it says. It says dam hapar. Doesn't say, it says midam hapar. Doesn't say dam me hapar. Oh, so the Gemara says, v'kosovar, this brisa holds, goyrin, you can subtract a letter from one word, umaisifin, and add it to another word, the darshan, and then darshan the pasuk. So we take the mem from midam and we add it to hapar, and then we have dam me hapar yikablanu. So therefore we learn that the dam has to come directly from the par, the tzavar hapar, into the kli. Okay? Gewaldik. This was all a build-up to the next shayla. Says the Gemara, Bayir of Papa, so now here comes Rav Papa Shaila. Nispazra haketoiris. Mimalei chafnav. If the Kohen Gadol stuck his hands into the ketoiris, machta, and he got his nice hands full of ketoiris, and then some of the ketoiris falls out of his hand, or falls out of his palm. How do we look at that? Do we look at his hands like the tzavar hapar, and therefore now the blood is on the floor, it didn't go, and then it's puzzle? Or do we look at his hands of the Kohen Gadol as the kli of Kabbalah, and therefore now it's falling from the kli? Says the Gemara, that is Rav Papa Shaila. This pasuk there is Memalei Chavna of Ma. What's the din? Yodai kitzavar behimadami. Is his hands like the neck of the animal? Upasula, and therefore it's going to be puzzle. Just like if the dam falls onto the floor before receiving it into a kli, the dam is puzzle. Oidilma kekli sharis dami. His hands are like a kli sharis. Velai pasula, and therefore if it falls after he already did malei chafnav, and then it falls onto the floor, then it is like falling out of the kli onto the floor, and it would be kosher. Says the Gemara, Teku. We believe, we're not sure. Frak says, what do you mean? Taimali, first very wide line in Taisus. Taimali, mifshut. I have a very simple way to answer the shayla. Remember we said on Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, why does the Kohen Gadol have to put his Malei Chafnav into a kaf? The Torah doesn't say to put it into a spoon. So he said it was Lo Yafsher. He had no other choice. Because what's he supposed to do? He can't go in twice. And he has no way of carrying in the shovel and with his hands full of keteris. So the Gemara says, well, what says Faktesis? Why not? If his hands are like a klisharis, so it means I don't mind if some of the keteris falls out. So then let him put the shovel on his hands that's filled with keteris. And then when he gets inside, so he'll loosen his hands a little bit from each other, and some of the keteris may fall on the floor. and then the machta goes down onto the right. You split your hands open. The shovel goes down. Some keteris falls out. You put the keteris back into your hands, and then put the keteris onto the coals. Once you tell me it's not a problem if keteris falls on the floor because his hands are klishares, so then why can't you do that? And from the fact that we don't allow you to do that, that his hands are not klishares, but rather like the tzaver behema, and if keteris falls on the floor, becomes puzzle. That says this is kasha. Taisus says, even if it's true that his hands are like a klishares, and a tiger wouldn't become puzzle, still, Lav Eirech Ara Lasis Kin Lechatchila B'chol Shana V'Shana. They say Lechatchila you should drop the keteris on the floor to be able to get this pain down on the floor. Doesn't sound right. Hashal Ne'melech Basa V'Damei Neisin Kin. You wouldn't do that. But they Melech Malchim Melech Malchim Baruch Halachas Kama V'Kama. So this is understanding why the suffix is still good. His hands could, because it doesn't make sense that the avodah should be lechatchila, that you drop the keteris on the floor in order to put down the machta and then pick it up and put it back in. Okay? Bleib sure, teku. So what happens lamaisa if the kohen gadol drops some of the keteris? What would you do? I don't know. Guess he's got to do it again. You got to go l'chumrah. Okay. I'm just looking to see if it says it here anywhere. Okay. Let's go back to Ba'i Rav Papa. Rav Papa's got a shayla. Chishev bechafinas keteres mahu. Okay, again, chafinas keteres is getting your scoop of keteres. Now, does your machshava make a difference when you're doing that avodah? Meaning, if the kohen gadol had in mind to do that, Rashi says, Chisha bechafinas keteres al menas laktir l'machar, on condition to bring the keteres tomorrow. Now, why he did that, I can't imagine. But if he did the chafina and he thought he's going to be maktir the keteres the next day, not on Yom Kippur, so mahu, what's the din? Is that going to be mefagel? Well, that made if you do one of the avodas of a carbon with the intent of doing it in the wrong place or the wrong time, so that it makes it pigel, and that is no good. So the shaila is there a machshava chishe bechafinas keteres mahu? What's the halacha? Do we say yalav malay mi mincha? Do we learn a gzer shava from mincha mahasa mehanya ba machshava? Just like over there, machshava makes a difference. So hachanam mehanya ba machshava. By when you're kaimetz a mincha, your machshava makes a difference. So then here too, your machshava will make a difference. Oilai, or do we not make that gzer shava, and therefore we have, and therefore we wouldn't have a source to say that the chafina, I guess, is an avodah that it would passel your machshava. Your machshava would passel. Now, if you recall, the Gemara last time it had a shayla, it had this gzer shava. The Gemara asked, well, hainu hache, we already asked the shayla. We already explained the gzer shava. So Rashi explains that the gzer shava malay, the Gemara, that gzer shava is negeh to is negeh to lots of things, but the Gemara there was comparing. There are two halachas that I learned from the same word, bekumtzai. Bekumtzai means you got to take a kaimetz in your hand, and we learned two halachas from there. Number one, that it can't be in a kli. You can't use a kli. And number two, there can't be anything sticking out. Okay, that's learned from bekumtzai. So if those two shaylas are dependent on each other, but any other shayla that we have about keteris to chafina are not necessarily telling those two, are not telling the word bekumsai, and therefore you could learn the gzei shava or not learn the gzei shava. It's not totally in that shayla. Okay. So Yoma brings a raya. Amalei Rav Shimi bar Ashi l'Rapapa Toshima. Hoysev Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva again. The shayla is there going to be a psul of will your machshava, if you have a machshava psula, the wrong intention, when you did the chafina, when you scooped up the keteris, is that going to pass? So Mara brings it right like this. Tashma hoyz Rabbi Akiva hakoymitz v'aketeris v'alavoyna v'agacholim. Rabbi Akiva added a few to a list. This is a list of chumra b'kodesh, chumras that kachim has over other things. One of the chumras is that a kli will be mitztarif, will join together everything that is inside that kli, and if somebody tummy touched one of the things in the kli, they all become tummy. So Rabbi Akiva added Silas, Keteris, Levina, Vagachalim. She'im naga tvul yom b'miktasan, if the tvul yom is going to touch even one of them in this kli, pasal askulon, that will pasal the whole thing. That's called the kli is mitztarev masha b'teichei. The kli will join together everything inside of it, and it says if the tvul yom touched everything. So the Gemara says things like this: kaslakadetich mid pasal tvul yom. If a psul yom will pasal it, so then the same halacha should apply to lina, pasla nami lina. That if this item stays overnight, meaning if it's Rashi explains alma kitcha kli kedushas haguf. If the kli, if the tvul yom is touching part of it, that makes it everything inside it tummy. That means that this kli was mekadesh everything inside it. If the kli is mekadesh everything with the kedushas haguf, so now the psul of lina will also apply. Lina means anything that stays overnight without being brought into the mizbech or being eaten or whatever we're supposed to do, so that it becomes pasul. They keep in the pasul lina. So now, if there's a psul of something staying overnight, so then there should also be a psul of machshavas lina. If your thought was that this should be done on the next day, which means that you're planning on keeping it overnight, so then that the machshava alain should pasal it. So that is kasak detach mit the pasal tvul yom. From the fact that the tvul yom pasals this, and this item has kedushas haguf, so pasal nami lina. So now it's also pasal mishum lina, and if it's pasal mishum lina, pasal nami machshava. So your machshava for it to stay overnight should also pasal it. Okay, that's our next Rashi has a kasha. Why don't we could have proved this from somewhere else without having kasak thing to say kasak adaitach. Gewaldik. We'll continue with Hashem next time.